Greetings, YouTube. New hat. Today we have an article out of Nashville, Tennessee. I'm going to quote some lines from the article. State anti-terrorist office officials listed the American Civil Liberties Union of Tennessee on an internet map detailing, quote, terrorism events and other suspicious activity, unquote, after the group warned schools to ensure that the holiday celebrations, quote, are inclusive, unquote. ACLU Tennessee Executive Director Hetty Weinberg called Tennessee Fusion Center's tracking of First Amendment protected activity, quote, deeply disturbing, unquote. Now the article continues on, and the closing quote I thought was quite interesting. Where is it? Weinberg said there seems to be no oversight on what's posted on these maps and how it's categorized, which is kind of, an important thing. You need oversight of any organization that's going to start flagging people as being potentially terrorists. The best thing about this is there's a dialogue now beginning, and this clearly is a good opportunity to explain to the Commissioner of Homeland Security and the TBI, the Tennessee Bureau of Investigation, why there need to be better guidelines in place, and which include better oversight and transparency, Weinberg said, and I couldn't agree more. Because you see, the ACLU, the American Civil Liberties Union, is an organization that helps to defend the rights of those that have been marginalized by American society. They defend the rights of the minorities, and occasionally they defend the rights of the majorities when those rights have been infringed upon. But that's the whole point of their organization. They defend the civil liberties of American citizens. It's a non-profit organization. It's just that the majority of the time in the United States, it's the minorities that are having their rights infringed upon. And the ACLU itself is all about helping people make sure that they can express themselves, First Amendment, in an environment which is often less than open to discussion. Now, the article itself is somewhat distressing. Well, more than somewhat distressing, it's rather severely distressing in my opinion. Organizations, particularly private organizations, that start flagging people as terrorist groups without any kind of oversight are a danger to our civil liberties. But the comment section below this article, and I'll put a link to the article itself, are really depressing. It appears that many people reading this article are not fans of the ACLU, which I find interesting. Why are they not fans? Well, it appears that they consider the ACLU a danger to our very rights in America. And yet it is the ACLU that defends the rights of Americans. It's been my experience that when you defend the rights of minorities, and those minorities be based on anything along racial lines, religious, political, you name it, when you defend the rights of minorities, sometimes the majority doesn't like that. Funny about that. And they feel that their privilege is being impacted when minorities stand up and say, excuse me, I'm here and I have just as much right to speak out as you do. Because the most important speech to protect is the speech you don't agree with. Because the speech that you do agree with doesn't need to be protected. Because if everyone's agreement, hey, that's a really great opinion, no one needs to protect that speech. That speech is protected by the very nature of the fact that everyone thinks it's a great opinion. But when you say something that isn't a popular opinion, well, then that piece of speech needs to be protected. Now, we have freedom of religion in the United States. And in fact, it is against the First Amendment to establish religion by the state, the government, on any level. So for the ACLU to say, release a letter and tell the school systems, make sure that your religious observances or the holiday season is not seen as a religious observance, and it's not indoctrinating children into any particular religious worldview, that would be backing up the First Amendment rights that the people in the comment section are calling into question. So the ACLU is defending the First Amendment and the minorities that could be negatively impacted if the First Amendment isn't followed, and yet is being accused of violating the First Amendment rights, which I don't quite grasp. I could see how you might undertake that position if, for example, you're a position of white Christian majority, or maybe undermined by the fact that there are people in America who aren't white Christian, male, conservative, the dirty, filthy, brown people, the non-Christians, the liberal progressives, the folks that, apparently the commenters don't like a lot. And while the ACLU does not often defend the WASPs of America, it has happened. White Anglo-Saxon Protestants is what WASP stands for. Most often they do, in fact, defend the rights of those who are in the minorities, and this has always been a point of contention for people that consider themselves opponents of the ACLU. So, I'm a big supporter of the ACLU. I think that they are a vitally required component of American culture. Without them, the rights of minorities across this great nation would be impacted negatively. And I think that those that hold them in a negative view say something about their particular political view of the universe. And I don't think it's a really good thing that they're admitting about their political view. When you oppose other people's rights to defend their rights, well, I've got a problem with that.